concentrate on that part. Oh my life. Really. But we didn't do this. I just gave it to you, right? We'll talk about but in this other one, we're going to be this one will be yeah, we did some of these exercises. Yeah, that's it. This is we didn't do this. This one I said to you to change this, but we didn't do this. And material practices. Okay, so we didn't do this, right? Or we did that. But we didn't do this. No, we did this. Crunch. Yeah, we did this. This is because it's in my notes. This one is oh, how about this one? Did you do this? This sticky toffee. How about the answers? This one, I understand how. This. Seven, 12, yeah. Okay. This one's actually later. Yes, yes. I give it to you later. This one you need to get a copy of this.
to reboot our memory. So here's what we're going to do. Okay. Our agenda for today. We'll do a lot of reviews because I'm sure we have not remembered anything now. Okay. So first we're going to review a question on your chapter 11 slides. There is a question on page 39. And this question is a multiple choice question on materials mix and yield variances. Okay? And then if I remember it correctly, on chapter 11, I gave you a separate handout that has some activities on it. Alright, so additional handouts. I think on page 22, there is sales mix and quantity variance. And the last time we met, I asked you to work on this. So I'm not sure if you did, but we're going to do that. Then I also give you multiple choice question review questions. Okay? So, in other words, at the moment, you must have 3 different paper with you. The chapter 11 that looks like this. Find it. The chapter 11 that looks like this. Okay, find it. And the question that looks like this. Okay, find it. I hope you have not left it in your hometown. Yeah, so these 3. Do you find it? Where did you leave it at? Again, chapter 11, variance analysis. Do you have this? Yes, very good. Chapter 11 that looks like this. Yes, you have this? No? I'll give it to you in a moment. And chapter 11, sorry, it says review variance analysis. It says question 1, question 2, question 3. Do you have this? Yeah. What do you know? Find it. You keep it at home. My gosh. Okay. Alright, who needs what? You got all? Okay, so those who got all, perfect. Very good. Those who don't have it, okay, I have it. Okay, wait a moment. Hold on, guys. How about chapter 12? Do you have chapter 12? No. What? Okay, I have some here. God, this one, you all left it behind. Okay, wait a minute. So what do you need? Okay, here's what I'll do. Can I put it here? And choose which one you need. Is that okay? Otherwise, it will take time if I have to ask everybody. Alright, so here's 11, 11, 11, 12. Okay, now come. Guess what you need. This is extra. Okay? Alright? Okay? Who else is missing what? Okay, so you're good. Okay? Alright, so we will do those review. Then we go to chapter 12. Okay, so chapter 12, check. I gave it to you also in advance. Okay? You have that? Okay? So, and then we're supposed to also talk about chapter 12 is also on variance analysis, but this time it's about operational and planning variance, planning and operational variances. Okay? All right, so planning and operational variance. Okay? And then we go to chapter 13, which is performance analysis using variances. Okay? So, this chapter 13 is the end of the standard or budgeting section of our syllabus. Okay? The next topic we will have starts now performance measurement. This is now the last section of our syllabus. Okay? So that will be from chapter 14 onwards. But our next topic is not chapter 14, it's actually chapter 16. So chapter 16 is performance measurements of financial profit-making companies. Performance measurements, okay, of profit-making companies. Okay? Now, there's one thing I need to announce to you, that we need to complete our topics in time because there are 4 days of intensive reviews. You probably have heard that, correct? Okay. There are 4 days of this, and this will happen. Let me just see my calendar. Okay. It will happen on, there are 4 days, 18, 19, is that correct? 25 and 26 May. You're looking at the old calendar again. Which calendar are you looking at? Why is that different dates? Hold on. Let me verify why they're... Hold on. Relax, relax. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. 20, 25, 26, and 29. Okay, sorry. Okay. So what is it? 20, 25, and 29. Okay. Sorry. So 20, what is the day of the 20? Okay, so this is a Monday. 25 is a Saturday. 26 is a Sunday. And 29 is a Wednesday. Okay? So, we will review from the beginning. So we need to finish our finish our variances and our performance measurement in time for that. Okay? Now, during the review, I need you to bring your computer because you will need to answer on the computer. You understand? The question and the handouts I'll need to print it out, but the answer, you need to be able to put it in an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, if required. All right. So, you guys are all already, but you have to already part of it. You don't need to pay anything. It's part of our schedule. So you are welcome to join those intensive reviews. Okay? So today we are going to review again material variances. So can you open your page 39 and go to this question here? Okay? There's a multiple choice question on material variances. Can you go to this? It says, this one. It's on page, did I say earlier? Page 39. Page 39 of your chapter 11 slides. Can you do that? Can you find it, please? All right, did you find it? Open it. Are you there? Okay. When you have a multiple choice question, you need to look at the requirements first. So, based on the above information, it says, which of the following statements is true? Okay? So, it's looking for total mix and yield variances. Okay, so it has something to do with materials. Okay, so let's take a look at the question. Okay, so remember, when you have a mixed variance, what are the ingredients you need to look for? So we need to look at the materials, correct? Okay, so let's look at the requirement here. Can you read you give the given information? Can you read the given information? What product it is? What the materials are all about? Can you do that? You found it? Okay, can you read it? All right, how many materials do they have? Okay, there are two materials here. Okay, now, what are they? Materials? Okay, chemical A and chemical B. All right, so when it's asking for mix variance, you have to compare what? You have to compare the mix, yes? So how will you solve this problem? What do you do? So the first thing you need to calculate is for your total mix variance. So how will you start with? Anybody? Can you solve it? So you have what? Chemical A and B, correct? And you are going to compare the mix. What are the two mix? The standard mix and the actual mix. Which quantity are you going to use? Actual quantity. Okay? Now, I'll give you 2 minutes. I need you to give me the variance, please. I need the total mix variance. So, right? So, to produce 19 liters of product X, the standard input is 8 of chemical A and 12. So what is our standard mix therefore? 8 over 12, sorry, 8 over what? 20. 8 over 20 and 12 over 20. Okay? Now, standard cost per liter, standard cost per liter. Okay, we will need that later on, isn't it? What is the actual quantity? Do you see the actual quantity? What is the actual quantity? Where is it?
1,800.
Is this the quantity of the what? Product X. But what quantity am I looking for? Actual quantity of the what? A and B. Correct. So what is it? 900 of A and 1,100 of B. So total is what? 2,000. So all of that is given in the problem, correct? Okay, now continue. I want total mix variance, and I also want what? I want yield variances because I have to answer the question in the exam. Can you do that? Okay? So, what should be, therefore now, what is my standard mix? So what did we say? When you do total mix variance, you use the actual quantity, correct? So here would be 2,000. Now, what will be our standard mix therefore? Okay, it will be what? 800 and what? 1,200. So you finish with that. What do you do next? You will have to calculate the mix variance. Okay, this time in terms of liters. Do you understand? Okay, so what's the difference here? 100. This one? 100. Is that correct? Which one's favorable? Which one's adverse? A is what? Capital A, adverse or favorable? Adverse. Your actual, remember this is, your actual mix. This is your actual mix. This is standard. So that is adverse. The letter B is favorable. What do you do then? You have to multiply with your standard cost. What is the standard cost of A? 20. What is the standard cost of B? 25. Correct? Where did we get that? It's here. Is everybody following? Yes? Because this one you should have done it already. So, mix variance would be what? Okay, so this one is 2,000 and this one is 2,500. Is that correct? One is adverse, one is favorable. What is it? What is the net effect? 500, what? Favorable. Okay? Favorable. Okay. Yield variance. You want the short or the long? Both. Both. Okay. No discount, huh? Okay. All right. Let's do the long first. Long first. Okay. I will do it for you. It's a little bit complicated. All right. So chemical A and chemical B. Now remember, yield is what we're looking for. So, what happens here? The mix will be the same, correct? Both mix will be the same. What is different? One will be what? One will be actual mix, and the other will be, actual quantity, the other will be standard quantity. Do you understand? Everybody's clear? Are you following? Here we're talking about actual and standard quantity. The mix remain the same. Yun? Okay? So what do we do? One of this information is available. Which information is available from before? Okay? We know that the actual quantity was 2,000. And what was the mix? 800. That was the standard mix, remember? Now the question is, what is the standard quantity? What is the standard quantity? Okay? How do we know what was the standard quantity? Okay? How many was the output? What was the output? The output is 1,850 liters of what? Of product X. What is the standard? It says, what does it say in the problem? It says that for every, what does it say? For every how many liters of X? 19. For every 19 liters, they need how many? 8 liters of A and 8 liters of 12 liters of B. Which means, how many 19 liters is 1,850 liters? Do you understand? That will be your standard quantity. Okay, because it says, for every 19 liters, they need, how many of A? They need 8 liters of A and 12 liters of B. Okay? So, how many liters should they need as a standard to make 1,850 liters? What should I do? Divide by 19, multiply by what? Multiply by 20, correct. So what do you do? Very good. So you take 1,850 divided by 19, multiply by 20. You understand? Because there's 20 liter total per 19 liters. Do you understand? You got that, everybody? Okay, so you're following? So how many is this? Okay, so this is, they should have used 1,947. Okay, I rounded it up to 1,947. So for easy for us. Okay? You got that? Alright, so what is the standard mix here? What was it? 8 over 20 and 12 over 20. Can we divide that? Okay, so how do we take it? So 1,947, 8 over 20 is what? How many is that? Remember, you need the standard mix. How do I divide this? Between A and B. What is the standard mix of A? So, okay, so how much is that? How many liters? 7, 7. Okay, let's round it off. 9, correct? And of course, the balance is 12. All right? You got that? Is everybody following what I'm saying? Yes? Okay. So which means now, your yield variance is what? Can you tell me what is our yield variance? In liters first. Letter A, chemical A. What is the yield variance of chemical A? 20, 21, and this one is 32. Favorable or adverse? Favorable or adverse? Adverse, very good. Adverse as well. Do you understand? Why adverse? Because, where's my this is actual, this is standard. Your actual is higher than the standard. Do you understand? Okay, so that is adverse. Okay, standard cost remains the same. What is that? 20 and 25. Therefore, what is your yield variance? What? Actual, standard than this, so that is adverse. Yes, this is the standard. Yes. Yeah, which means you needed to have more input than the output. It's still adverse. Yield means that for every input, how much is your output? So the same, so you don't get confused, it's the same method. You need to calculate the actual versus the standard. It is still adverse. Okay? Because you're talking about, if you look here, really it's adverse. You see, it's adverse. You need, the standard says you only need this to come up with this. They actually use more to come up with the same quantity. So it's adverse. You understand? You needed only this much of A to make this, but you use 800. That is adverse. You needed this much to come up with this, but you use more. So that is adverse. Okay now? Alright, so that's what it means by yield. Okay, so what do we have? We have 420 adverse, and then 800 adverse. Net effect, 1220 adverse. Okay? Long way? A short way, sorry?
Is it correct calculation on 1,800 divided by 9?
Yeah, what happened? What is the question?
Is it the correct example? 1,000.
947? The question is? What did you get?
1,178.
Are you sure? Double check your calculation. Yeah, you put on this up. Yeah, okay. Alright. 1947. Okay, so yield is 1227. Now you wanted, this is the long way to calculate the yield. You want us to do the short way? Yes? Okay. In the short way, okay, the short way, what is the short way? We don't know what is the short way. Okay. The short way says, what was your actual quantity? I will put it in a box, okay? Can I move the slide now? Everybody understood this one? Yes? Agree? Okay. Let's take the shortcut way. Remember, in yield variances, you want to see your actual, your input versus the output, correct? Okay. So, your actual quantity of materials was equal to what? How many did you put? 2,000 liters, correct? The 2,000 liters, if I divide that by 20, will come up with what? 100 of what? Of 19 liters. You understand what I just said? Look at the problem again. It says you need 20 liters. What? Why 20? 8 and 12, correct? To make how many liters? 19, correct? So, if I have 2,000 liters, I divide by 20, means I can make 100 of 19 liters. Do you understand again? Again, I will repeat. The problem says that to make 19 liters, they need 20 liters of materials, which is a combination of A and B. That one we understood, right? Yeah. Today, I have 2,000 materials. 2,000 total, yes? You understood? Now, divided by 20, why 20? Because you need 20 to make 19, correct? So how many of 20 do I have in the 2,000? 100. Which means I can make 100 of 19 liters. So what is the total? 100 of 19. So what should have been the yield? Should be yield. What is the should be? How many should be the yield? 1,900. You understand? The actual quantity of 2,000 liters should have given me 1,900 liters. What was the actual output? 1,850. So only there is a favorable or adverse variance? Favorable or adverse? They should have come up with 19. Should be 19. How many only came up? 1,850. The 50 is? Because I still hear something bad. Favorable or adverse? What? It is, I will put here, adverse. But because it should be 1,900, they only came up with 1,850. Now, how do I cost it out? So now, we have to reverse back. This 50 liters, okay? This 50 liters, I need to multiply it with $20. Sorry, how much is it? How much is it to make 119 liter? Let's see, chemical A. Chemical A and B. It says 8. Yeah, to make 19 liters of product X, I need 8 liters. How much is the cost of this one? This is 20 and 12 liters of 25. So this one is what? 160 and this is 300, correct? So every 19 liters, it will cost 460. So which means this adverse information divided by 19 is how many? Divided by 19 is? Okay, so 50 divided by 19 is 2.63. Okay, round off. Multiply now, so this is number of liters. You multiply this with this, what will it be? 1,209.80. Sorry? 1,210. If you put the entire, you don't round off, correct? Okay. So basically, it's the same as here. It's not exactly the same because we have the round off issue. Okay, so we had rounded off some numbers. Okay? Now, you understand now? Or, alright? So this is your yield variance, and it is what? It is adverse. Okay? Understood? But it doesn't answer the question yet. Because the multiple choice question says, what is, okay? What statement is true? What is your answer? Go back to the question. It says, based on the information, are the both variances adverse? Are the both variances favorable? Or the mixed variance is adverse? The yield variance is favorable. So what do we have? Sorry, what is our mixed variance is what? Favorable or adverse? Favorable. So, the first question is, are both variances adverse? The answer is no. Are both variances favorable? No. The mixed variance is adverse? Mixed variance is adverse? No. But the mixed variance is favorable and the yield variance is adverse. Okay? So that is the sample. Any part of this you need explanation more? Otherwise, we will try and do more exercises in a moment. So that is a review on material, mix, and yield variance. Okay? Okay. Now, question? All right. When you're ready, go to the next set of slides, and I want you to go to page 22. Your handout should look like this. And I remember very clearly, I corrected one item there that says number of units. Yes? Before we left. Page 22. Page 22. And we need sales mix and sales quantity variance. Sales mix and sales quantity variance. Page 22. Oh, not this handout. Yes, this handout. Page 22. Page 22. Not slide. Page 22. Okay, you have that? The company name is Cabco. The company name is Cabco. Looks like this. Found it? All right. All right. Sales mix. Okay. Two things only I'm asking you to do. Sales mix and sales quantity variance. I told you before that this one, actual production and sales, should not have any dollar value. Dollar sign. Okay, can you read it? 2 minutes? And understand the problem? They sell how many products? 3. All right. What kind of system do they use? Absorption, which means we have to use standard profit or standard margin? You have to use standard profit, okay? Because they're using absorption costing. So the things that you need to look for, you need to look for standard mix, standard sales mix. You need to look for standard profit per unit. Okay? What else do you need to look for? You need to look for actual sales quantity. Do you need that? You have to look for standard or budgeted sales. Yeah? Can you look for that there? All right. Where can I find the standard sales mix? Show me the standard sales mix. Where? First slide, second slide. Where is it? Where is your standard sales mix? First slide? Where is it in the first slide? Where? Hello? Where is your standard sales mix? How do I know what is the standard sales mix? B, K, and R. They have to be sold, correct? On a standard mix, where can I find it? Which one? Anybody?
Slide 1.
Slide 1? Where at in slide 1? Direct labor. How can the labor come with the sales mix? I'm looking for the standard sales mix. Where is it? Yes, very good. Standard budget. Yes? Sales. This is your budgeted production and sales. Which means, what is your mix? What is the total sales? Total budgeted sales. What's that? 20, 30, 32. You understand? So the mix is what? 10 over 32, 13 over 32, 9 over 32. Okay, I have the standard sales mix. Okay? I also have the budgeted sales. What is the budgeted sales? Total? 32. Where is my actual sales? Actual sales is below here, correct? So what is this actual sales totaling to? 31,000. Is that correct? 31,500. What is this? This one is your budgeted sales. This 31 is your actual sales. Okay? So I have my actual sales. Now, I want to know my standard profit. What should I do? Per unit. What is the standard profit per unit? What should I do? Standard profit per unit. Sales, selling price, minus material labor, and the overhead. Do you understand? Yes. But the overhead, you have to calculate the what? The OR per unit. How do they absorb the overhead? Machine hours. Oh, but I don't have the total machine hours. Where can I get that? You see this one here? You see that? Yes? It will tell you the total machine hours budgeted quantity. You understand? For all this budgeted quantity, you have to multiply by the machine hours. Then you total up the machine hours, correct? Okay, I need you to tell me now, how much is the profit per unit? Can you calculate quickly? Quickly. How much is the profit per product B, R, and K? Do we have the selling price per unit? Yes. 14, 15, and what? 18. And you said we need to deduct materials minus labor minus overhead equals your profit. Come on, work. Don't look for me. Don't wait for me. This is supposed to be an exercise that you have already done, actually. But I am taking the time to do it one by one with you again. So please work. we have the same material cost? Can you check? Yes? Okay. Do we have, now we calculate the labor cost. How much is the labor cost? Okay, so we have there, right? So the first one is what? 3.25. Next one? Okay. 5.2. Next one? 4.55. Okay. Do we have the same OAR per machine hour? Why? What is wrong with yours or mine? You remember where we got the number of hours here? This is your budgeted quantity, right? This is the machine hours, so you have 18,000 hours. So, budgeted. This is your budgeted overhead. Divided by, because it's absorbed per machine hour, correct? Yeah. So now, 4.5 per machine hour, which means, what is the overhead for product B? How many hours does product B take? 0.3. So you have to multiply this by 4.5. Very good. So how much is that? 1.35. Is that correct? Next one. R requires 0.6 of an hour. So how much is the cost of overhead of R? 2.70. Yun? Is everybody noting it down? Okay. K, how about K? 0.8 of an hour? 3.60. So which means, what are our profits? The first one is what? 4. Very good. Second? 3. Third is? Ta-da! 5. Very good. Now, that is what we need. We need this part here, correct? We have the mix. All right, calculate the first one. Sales mix variance. Same process like the material mix, except that we need to multiply it with the profit. You understand? Okay, so the same process. Okay, before I move this slide, okay, if you're copying it, okay. So if you have this already, prepare to calculate sales mix variance. Okay? Now remember, you are comparing actual mix versus standard mix. Actual mix versus standard mix. Okay? So, B, R, and K. What you're going to compare is your standard mix versus your actual mix. Okay? Alright, so what quantity will you use? Both will be what? Actual quantity. Very good. Alright, so what do we have? Do you remember what our standard mix is? What was our standard mix? 10 over 32, then 13 over 32, 9 over 32. Now, everybody knows where we got that from, correct? Okay. So, what do we have? We need actual quantity. What was the actual quantity again? 31,500, which is broken down into 9,500, 13,500, and 8,500. Now, do you remember where we got that from? Yes? Okay. Now, you move that actual quantity over to the other side. But this time, you remember how to do it now? Yes? Okay. So, break it down into standard mixes. 31 using standard mix. Okay. Okay, so how many does it come out with? 43.75. Okay? Next one? So 12. Oh my God. 796 point. Let's put all of them there so we don't have a round off issue. 31. 8859.375. Okay. Do we have mixed variances in terms of kilograms? Is it kilograms or units? Okay, so which one is it? What is it now? The first one. 9843.75. Okay. 343.75. Favorable or adverse? Really? Really?
Yes.
We're talking about sales here. Oh yeah. If it was material cost, I would agree with you. But I'm talking about sales. So in sales, if your actual is lower than your standard, is that good?
No.
No. It's different. You understand? Okay, so don't forget that part. Please don't forget. You in sales, if the actual is less than the standard, that is adverse. You understand now? Yes? Because just think like this. How do I know it is favorable or adverse? Just think like this. What does it do to your profit? You understand? What does it do to your profit? If my sales is lower than what it should be, what happens to my profit? Goes down, correct? Then it is adverse. No, let's talk about cost. If my actual cost is higher than my standard, what happens to my profit? Go down. So always think about profit. If the effect on the profit goes down, it is adverse. So you don't get confused. What is the effect on the profit? You understand? Whether it's cost or sales, whatever is that difference, if the actual pulls your profit down, then it is adverse. If it increases your profit, then it is favorable. Yes? So you don't get confused, huh? So let's try again. So this is adverse. What's the difference on the second one? Okay, so 703.125. Now tell me, favorable or adverse? Aha, so your actual sales is higher, right? So that is good for your profit. Okay, next one. 359.375. Tell me. Correct. That is adverse. Now, remember, what do you multiply it with? Not with selling price, but standard profit. Profit, because this is sales volume. Sales volume is already either using profit if it's absorption, contribution if it is marginal costing. But in this problem, it says they are using absorption costing. Okay? So, what was the profit again? 4, 3, and 5. So your sales mix variance therefore is how much? 1375. I'm sorry, adverse. I'm sorry, did I get that correct? Maybe I'm wrong. I'm correct, okay. So this one is 2109.375 favorable. One 796.875 adverse. Net effect. Okay, so 1062.5 what? Adverse. Okay, adverse. Okay, so there's one more you're asked to do. You're asked to do one more. Sales what? Sales quantity variance. So what are you going to compare now? Now you're going to compare actual quantity versus what? Versus standard quantity. What is the mix? Both mixes are what? Standard mix. Standard mix. Standard mix. Okay. Can you do it for me now? B, R, and K. Okay. So you have quantity variance. Standard. By the way, it is still standard profit, huh? Yes. What was the standard quantity again? 32,000, okay, which is broken down into what? 10, 13, and 9. Yes? And then, of course, we have the actual quantity at standard mix, which is 31,000. Okay? So, 9843.75. So, basically, it's the same like here. The same one over here. Okay? Yeah, so do we have quantity variance? Oh my, yes, we do. But I need to ask you, favorable or adverse? This one here is 156.25. Favorable or adverse? Okay, adverse. Actually, it's lower, correct? Okay, next one. Also adverse looks like, yeah? How much? 203.125, also adverse. Okay, and then the other one looks like adverse too. 8859.375. 140625 adverse, correct? So 4, 3, and 5. So how much is our quantity variance? Adverse. $609.375 adverse. $703.125 adverse. So what is our net effect? $1937.5 adverse. Is that what you got? Yeah. All right. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think their mix was adverse? Can you tell me why? Why is the mix adverse? Remember, when you're trying to sell products, you would like to sell the product. You see, the plan was what? The plan was to sell, you see, that was the standard, correct? They wanted to, okay, the plan was to 13,000 to sell, but the profit of the 13,000 is too small, correct? Okay? So if you want to change the mix, you want to change it so you can actually sell which product more? The one that has what? A higher profit. But what happened to them? Can you see what happened to them? That is why their mix is adverse. What happened to them? They actually sold more on the what? You see this one here? Yeah, they sold more of the one that has the lowest profit. So hence, their mix variance is adverse. Well, why is the quantity variance also adverse? Well, you can see the quantity, right? You see here the quantity. What happened? They're supposed to sell 32. How many did they sell? Only 31.5. You understand? That is why their quantity variance is also adverse. Okay? I will ask you a question. What is the sales volume variance? What is the sales volume variance? What do you do? What is the sales volume variance? What should you do? What is the volume variance? You forget. You forgot. The sales variances are like this. Sales variance, total sales variance is broken down into two. You remember? What are they? Price and what? Volume. Volume is broken down into two. Mix and quantity variance. Do you understand? So again, I will ask the question, what is the volume variance? So you have to take the effect of these two. In this case, it's both adverse. Do you understand? So the total of these two this time is going to give you your volume variance. You got that? Yes? Okay. Don't forget, please. How about materials? Earlier we were talking about materials, correct? Yes? What did we talk about? Mix and yield variance. The mix and yield variance makes up the what variance? Material mix and yield makes up what variance? Anybody? Your total materials variance is broken down into two. Can you tell me what they are? Price and usage. Usage can be broken down into mix and yield. You understand? Okay? So, the mix and the yield makes up the usage in the materials. The sales mix and sales quantity makes up the volume variance. Do you understand? Yeah? Okay. Alright. Okay, so that makes up for that. Now, any one of you did the exercises of multiple choice questions in this paper? I gave it to you, correct? Before you left for your holiday. Anybody did any exercises? As I have guessed. Okay. Alright, so I cannot move on until you get this correct. Okay? Alright. What time is it? Alright. Can I give you a break? Wait. This one answer. The other question I'm answering. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, never mind. Yes, you can go for a break. When you come back, we will answer the first two questions here. Okay, or the first question. I have many questions I gave you. Question 1, question 2, question 3. You didn't answer any of them, but we will do the multiple choice question on question 1. Alright? Alright, so be on time when you come back. Come back in 45 minutes. Not 45 minutes. 6:45 or something. Okay? 6:50. Okay, 6:50 with the discount. Okay, go. Go. Have a break. Sorry, say again. Understand? The what? Depends on the requirement. So you know the requirement, read the requirement, and depending on what they're asking for, you have to, it's like, read the requirement and say, okay, what's the formula? Once you know the formula, then you can find what you need for the formula, just in the given instance. Try that here. For example, it says for you, what is the material mix? So what are the things you need? Okay, what else? And then what else do you need? And standard cost, so all that you look for, except for the one that you have to get the difference. Then that's what you look for. So you read the requirement, think of what is the formula to solve the problem, and look for the ingredients to make up the formula. That's the train of thought. Isn't that how I did it earlier? I told you I need this and this and this. Then we let's try that.
Especially it's in clothing line, it's my calculation, I'm sure. But 54 for 40%. You answered everything. You mentioned everything. It's congratulations. We got some posts. There's another student, so she got 49. And she's contesting. She said, I answered everything. She's got well, she got not F8, F5. Oh, she got yeah. She said she was able to answer everything, so must be. Oh, okay. Excellent. Good job. Okay. So this one is easy. But if you're not comfortable, you can do it. So then it's like the F8 did. We have time to. I know how thorough you are when you do like every chapter. That's a good. That's a good. What do you call this? That's a good approach. To really understand. Excellent. For F8 is already good. You know, because F8 is F8. It's very low. Very, very low. So if you imagine, what is that? Because it's interim exams, so maybe if it's a June and December, probably more. Where did you take the exam at? Here? Oh, just like is it true when they give you the table, when they ask you to put it in a table, they already prepared the table? What's say, for example, deficiency and then this. Really? Exactly? You can even go more? Hugely. So what I was telling you is right. They usually ask about risks, they ask about deficiencies, they ask about the standard procedure. Multiple choice. Sometimes it's I told you, it's very close. I know. that makes it different. For example, check the receipts after the year end, and there's check the receipts before the year end. So if you don't get that right, it's just one word that's different. You only need two. It's you had that right, it could have been higher, which means your score was on the discursive. It's very, and you answered all the section B and C. Section B is a 20 mark, section C is a 30 mark. What system did they ask you to evaluate? What internal control system? What system did they ask a question on evaluation of the system? Yeah, was it they talk about sales system, purchase system, what system? That's in the law. Sales system. But they did on the 20 in the same 30 weeks, 30 weeks. Did ask about the count. We talked about the what is the scenario with poisoning? Sorry. Okay, inhalation. What was the question about? What's the difference? Do you remember the term? Talk. Tracy? Go get yeah. Need the multiple choice? Okay guys, I think we can start. Can you look at question 1? Okay? And then what did I tell you say? Okay, let's give them, is everybody here or somebody's missing? Okay, wait, 3 minutes, because I think I said 6:50, right? Give 3 minutes to complain. It says, what? Why'd you tell us not to come on time? Okay, prepare. we can start. Okay, so it's 6:15. All right, question 1. I'll give you 4 minutes to answer the first question.
What was the material mix variance for the period? Okay? Mix variance. Okay, solve it. I know I gave you the answer to this, but if you did not solve it, then solve it now. No, this is for you to see. You don't, this is multiple choice, so you don't have to show your answer, correct? But I need to show it to you. So, what is that? You can, yes, of course, you have to calculate. Yes, but you don't have to show your calculation. Yeah? So, okay, so, complete. Nobody's doing it. Are you guys working on it or not? I just want to tell you to be careful between grams and kilograms. How many grams in a kilogram? Okay. Be careful. Okay, the same thing you have to be careful in the exam. Meters and centimeters. You understand? Grams and kilograms. Okay? Answer. Letter? What did you have? Letter what? Letter D. Correct. Okay? Letter D. Okay? It's 16.51 adverse. Okay? 16.51 adverse. Okay? Things that you should be careful. Your cost should be your standard cost. Now they gave two costs. One below is actual. So you don't use that. You understand? Okay? And then of course you have your standard mix. Alright. What about question number 2? What is the expected output if their input, okay, so the input is how many kilograms? 570.5 kilograms, okay? If they inputted 570.5 kilograms, what should be, what is the question? What is the output? Answer? Letter? Very good. The answer is letter B. Correct. What did you do? The input divided by what? Divided by how many kilograms per bread? 0.610, correct. Okay? Because it's 610 grams. So that would be 0.610 kilograms. So that would be how many loaves of bread? 935 loaves. Okay, very good. Alright. Okay. The next question is a discursive question. Okay? Alright. In number 3, it says, what could cause an adverse yield variance? Now, adverse means that your input is more than your output. It means that you need to have more input to make the same output. Okay, what would be your answer? What would increase the yield, the adverse yield variance? Number 3. I'm trying to put this question on the screen. Here. Question number 3 says, okay, what will cause an adverse yield variance? And there are 4 given sentences. In which area, okay, would you need more materials to make the same output? Or you need more materials than required to make the same output. Okay? So what is your answer? Answer? B as in boy, D as in doy, which one? Dog. Okay, alright. You are correct. The answer is D. I cannot write here. But number 3 is D. Let me explain that. Okay, your paper is clearer. Number 1, the mix may not be removed completely from the machine. You know, when you mix the dough to make the bread, some of the materials are left stuck on the machine, correct? So they cannot be taken out anymore. So what happened? What happens to your output? It will be higher or lower? Some of the pieces of the flour is left on the dough. The dough means the mix that you make the bread. You know the gooey thing? when you put it in the machine and you take it out to make the dough, some are still left in the machine. So what happened? Okay? That is still an input of material, correct? But your output is now less because some are left there. So what will happen? Your yield will be lower. So when your yield is lower, that is adverse. Okay? That is adverse. Number 2, since the loaves of the bread are made by hand, they may be slightly too large, meaning that the number of loaves of bread will be more or less? Less, because you make, it's by hand, so you cannot measure exactly, right? So sometimes it's a big piece, sometimes it's a small piece. So what happens? If it's larger, the number of loaves will be lower. Okay, so your yield is lower. Okay, that is adverse. Number 3, errors or changes in the mix may cause some loaves to be substandard, and therefore they will not pass quality control. They cannot be sold. Why can there be errors? Remember, this is baking, so they have to have the proper ingredients quantity. If you don't have the proper ingredients, your bread will not be a bread. It's either too hard, too soft, to not a bread, you understand? So you cannot sell that. So what happened to your yield? Your yield, again, will be lower because you cannot sell damaged or not a good bread. Number 4, the loaves might be baked in the wrong temperature and therefore be rejected by the quality. In other words, wrong temperature either too burned or too not cooked. You understand? So it will not be able to be sold. Yield will be lower. So all of them will cause a yield adverse variance. Okay? Number 4, the production manager's annual appraisal is linked to material mix yield usage variance. In order to get a better assessment, the manager is planning to vary the product mix by using higher portion of the white flour and lower portion of the wholemeal flour, as this would lead to a favorable mix variance. Which other variances other than the mix may be affected by the manager's decision? So if he changes the configuration and the mixture, will it affect the yield? Will there be a yield variance? Could be, right? Yeah, because if you change the mixture of or the kind of material, then or the mix, then it will affect. Okay? So the change in the mix, will it affect the sales price? The change in the mix, will it affect the selling price? Yes or no? Yes. Why it is yes? Because when you change the mix, your cost will change. You understand? Yeah. If you use more of one price, the cost, and the lower of the other, it's either the cost will increase or the cost will decrease. Now, if your selling price is based on cost, then the selling price will change. Right? Okay. How about material price variance? Material price variance. Material price, the price at which you bought the materials, will it be affected by the change in the mix? No. The cost of the material will be the same. It doesn't matter what is the mix you're going to use. The purchase cost already happened. Do you understand? The purchase cost already happened. Material price. How about sales volume? Will it change? Yes, your yield will change. Your volume will change. So what is the answer? The answer is letter C on number 4. Do you see how to answer the question now? Yes? Okay? Okay. Number 4, I will leave it later. Number 5, because this is something we will take up on chapter 12. Okay? And there's another question there. I will leave it to answer after chapter 12. Okay, ladies and gentlemen? Good. So now bring out your chapter 12 handout, please. sorry, can I write it? No, you have your hand out with you. Anyway, the question here, answer is B, and then number 4 is C. Okay, so when you see that, it's complete. Okay, chapter 12, everyone. Now, chapter 12 is about planning and operational variances. Wait a moment, it is coming soon. Okay? Now, all right. Let's talk about this planning and operational variances. What are our learning outcomes? We need to be able to learn how to calculate a revised budget. Okay? Also, we have to know when we can revise and when we cannot revise. And I will tell you the reason why. It's very important to know when we can and cannot revise the budgets. Okay? And also, okay, calculate and to be able to calculate and explain the planning and operational variances for sales, which includes market size and share, materials, and labor. Okay? And that's why I said, what is the effect if we start manipulating the budgets? What is the effect on the behavior of management or the one you're reviewing if we keep changing the budget? Remember, the purpose of setting up the budget is for control, isn't it? Okay, one of the purposes, of course. Because then, when you say control, you set up the budget at the beginning, and at the end, you have to compare the actual versus the budget, such as the variance calculation, correct? But then, when you review the performance of the manager, and you say, why is your performance adverse? Now, if you now start changing, you said, but you have to investigate. Was it because of the performance that there was a variance? Or was it because the budget was not correctly done? You understand? So you have to find out. Now, once you know that the budget is wrong because of external reasons, not because of internal, external reasons, then you can revise the budget. But if it's not, you cannot revise the budget, because if you make it a habit that the revision is done, then what happens? The manager will always say, oh, it's not an adverse variance. Check your budget. Maybe you did it wrongly. Okay? So the budgetary control then is no longer working as a performance measurement tool. You understand? Okay? So it is very important to know when we cannot revise the budget. Okay? Now, okay, so as I said, we need to discuss the circumstances when a budget cannot be revised. Remember, in this chapter, I need you to be able to calculate planning and operational variances. Okay? All right. Now, earlier we talked about these budgets. Now we'll talk about yield and mix and yield, sales mix and sales quantity. Now let's talk about this. Planning and operational variances. Okay? Now, in the exam, how will they ask you the question? They will ask you to calculate, and they will ask you to explain the circumstances when a budget is allowed to be revised. You understand? So they will ask you that for you to explain. Okay? Now, and of course, they will give it to you as a scenario basis. You understand? So they will ask you, when should or when you should not. Okay? When should you revise? When should you not revise the budget? Okay? So if you have a revision, then you will have a planning variance. If you don't have a revision, then you only have an operational variance. Do you understand? I'll show you in a moment. Okay? Now, as I said, sometimes budgeted can be revised. Why? All right? Because maybe when you actually compare the actual results with the budget, and somebody's performance will be reviewed, and the budget is not prepared correctly, due to not because of not knowing how to prepare a budget, but there are external factors that you considered when making the budget, and that factor was in error, okay? Or that factor was not the correct information that was at that time. So you need to be able to revise the budget, okay? So a person whose performance will be measured should be measured not on the planning variance, but on the operational variance, okay? Because the planning variance has nothing to do with that person, okay? What he's going to be evaluated is on his performance, and that's called operational variance, okay? Now, these are the reasons when sales budgets can be revised, okay? Sales budgets can be revised. Number one, at the time that you prepared the budget was a different economic situation as against what actually happened during the year. Example, in 2008, there was that big economic crisis that nobody expected. You remember? Okay. So what happened? All of the companies, Toyota and all those big companies, they prepared the budget in 2007. In 2007, everything was okay. You understand? But in 2008, became the economic crisis around the world. So what they had to do, they had to revise their budget. Because there was an economic condition that could not have been predicted before that year that happened. You understand? So in that case, the budget revision is allowed. You understand? Allowed. Right. And then, another thing that could happen, so in other words, these are outside the company's, what do you call this, capability or ability to have had predicted. Okay? Or it can be that there is an unexpected change in technology. There was one time that, for example, that there was a material or the technology that is used normally, and then suddenly it was discontinued because they actually determined that it is harmful to the environment. So immediately it had to be made obsolete. You understand? So what happened? If your technology that you used before has made immediately obsolete, then all your budgets related to that machine or technology is no longer applicable. You understand? So you have to revise your budgets. Okay? Revise your budget. Or your product that you're making will not anymore be viable. Okay? Radical change in customer attitudes. Okay? Example, you make your budget. Okay? Let's say Nike shoes. Alright? Nike shoes makes their shoes as normal. And they make their budgets. Sales budget. But in the actual year that it happened, there was a big protest that they do not want. They asked the customers, the people, not to buy any shoes from Nike because they were using products, materials that came from Indonesia, that the Indonesian had to destroy forests to plant the rubber trees. Do you understand what I just said? Nike buys materials from Indonesia where they destroyed a lot of forests to plant rubber trees to supply them with rubber. You understand what I just said? So, what happened? the people were asked to boycott to buy Nike shoes. Okay? There was a similar incident, but this is not as grave as this. I'm just giving you an example. So what happens now? Suddenly, there is a change in customer attitude. So what happened to the sales of Nike? They have to revise it. Do you understand? Because now they have the way that customers think is different. Okay? Another reason is unexpected new regulation affecting marketability. If the US starts to say, for example, that you cannot sell, okay? You cannot sell products that has an element of plastic. Example, Olivia, that cannot have an element of plastic in it. They cannot be sold in the US. And you are a company who sells in the US, and your product has an element of plastic. Because of the new law, what happens to your sales? It will drop completely, or you cannot sell anything at all. You understand? Because there is new regulation that affects your sales. So what do? You have to revise your sales because of that unexpected law or regulation. If you notice, all of these are actually external to the company. Do you understand? Something outside the ability for the company to have had predicted. Do you understand that? Okay? So these are the reasons where you can revise your sales budgets. How about material budgets? Okay? Material budgets can be revised again if, for example, the materials that you were supposed to buy suddenly is discontinued, which is beyond your control. Okay? Or, okay, suddenly the way that you make the product, the designers change the configuration. Therefore, they needed not material A, but they needed material B. Okay? So change in the quantity or change in the type of material. So instead of using, for example, 900 kilograms of material A, they say they need 1,000 kilograms. Okay? Because of the new design. So that you have to change your material budget. How about labor? Okay, this is what happened. This is what happened to your garment industry. Okay, what happened to your garment industry? They did not predict that the new labor law would come out. Yes? So what happened in the new labor law? All of the basic salary, I think, had to increase 3 times. It used to be $80 per employee per month. It reached up to $200 per person because they had not only salary increase, they were supposed to pay their medical, they were supposed to pay overtime, they were supposed to pay this and that. So you make 200. So what happens to the budget? Labor budget. It had to be revised. And of course, and we know some of them, they had to revise their budgets, and you know what happened? Their budget shows that their cost is higher than their sales, and they closed down. And many closed down. Okay? So revision in that case can be done. Or again, if there's a change in specification of the product, okay, the design of the product. Now, sometimes this change in specification does not come from the company. Sometimes the customer requests a change in the way that they want the product to be done. So again, if that is the change in specification, it changes the time it takes to make the product, then your labor cost will not be according to budget. You understand? You revise the budget for the labor cost. You understand? So it can be the time it takes to make the labor, the product, it can be the rate in terms of the labor. Okay? Now, however, we have to be very careful that they do not revise the budget because they want to manipulate the results of the performance measurements. You understand? Because it can be easily manipulated to say, oh, maybe the budget was wrong and manipulate and change the budget so that the results will not be any more adverse, but it will be showing favorable. Therefore, the performance will be good. Understand? So we be very careful in that sense. So strict rules should be in place regarding revision. Okay? Alright, so for example, if there is an unexpected change in the total size of the market for the product, then you should actually revise the expectation based on the new market size. Okay? If there is an unexpected change in the market price for materials, then they should have revised the budget using the new official price index. If there's a change in the standard of the material, then it should have a document that says there is a change in specification. In other words, you have to have a solid proof that there is a change in the external market, either in the market or in the specification beyond the company's control. Okay? So you have to have proof that there should be that change. Okay? So, how do we, okay? So we use variances to measure performance. Now, sometimes these measurements are wrong because the standards are not correct. Okay? So what happens here? If your original budget is no longer applicable, then you have to revise the budget. So the difference between your original budget and your revised budget is called your planning variance. Now, the difference between your revised budget and your actual result is called your operational variance. Again, therefore, operational variances is comparing actual with revised. Not with original anymore, the revised. So, out of this planning and operational, which variance will I use to measure performance? The planning or the operational? The operational. The planning is not within the control of any manager, so it is not used for performance measurement. But the operational variance is used for performance measurement. Okay? Alright, so planning variances, again, we said, maybe if it is due to inaccurate planning or faulty standards, so it's not actually the fault of the operational managers, but the senior manager. Okay? So, calculated comparing original versus revised. Operational standards is caused by how the manager actually performed. Okay? So, this one you compare by comparing actual results with the standard revised budget. Okay? Alright, so we have planning and operational variances in material price and usage, labor rates and efficiency, and sales. Okay? Alright, let's take a look. So how do we calculate planning variance when it comes to materials? So, actual production multiplied by the standard rate, original, minus the revised standard. This is called your planning variance for materials. Okay, so between what should be and what is now. Okay. Right. Operational variance is, where will you start with? You have to start with a revised standard and compare it with the actual cost. And that is called, what is this called? It's called operational variance. Okay. The price variance can also be the same thing, except that you will have to multiply and get the difference between the original price and the revised price. But you always use actual production, you see? Okay, actual production, okay, actual production. Usage variance, actual usage. Okay, sorry. This is planning usage variance, actual production. Okay, actual production with the original kilogram required and the revised kilogram. This is your planning usage variance. Okay, in other words, if the original standard kilograms is 2 kilograms per unit that you produce, and it now becomes 3 kilograms per unit, then you will have to use the revised, okay, and compare the 3 versus the 2. Okay. Price variance, okay, you compare, okay, your operating price variance is what your actual purchase cost versus the revised purchase cost. Okay, don't worry, I'll give you an example in a moment. Okay, usage, all right, actual production based on revised usage, revised materials as against the actual usage is your operation. It's the same calculation like our normal variances, except that when you calculate operational variances, it's always based on revised budgets. Okay, revised budgets. All right. Market share, in other words, sales volume. You'll have to compare, okay, this is operating variance, your revised budget as against your actual sales volume. Okay, so let's take an example. All right. The standard cost of the material is $3. Okay? All right. They need 3 kilograms at $1. That's why it's $3. Actual material cost is $250 when 70,000 units were made and 200 kilograms of material were used. So what is 70,000? Actual production or budgeted production? Actual, it says actual. Right, sure, I'm just checking, if you're still with me. Management realizes that the more realistic standard material cost at the current condition is $4.50, which means 3.5 kilograms by 120. Okay, so they have that is their new standard. So, what is our planning variance? Okay, our planning variance revised cost was what? 420. Yes, the original budget was what? 3. So what do you call 84? What is this? This is your planning variance for material cost. Do you understand? Planning variance for material cost. Okay? Now, operational variance, you will have to use which one? Because these two are your standard. But which standard am I going to use now? 294 or 210? You have to use the revised, yes? The revised versus the actual cost. Do you understand? What do we call this? This is called operational variance. You got that? Operational variance. Okay. Alright, so what is the advantages? Okay. Now, the advantages of doing this separate is that you can separate what is controllable and what is uncontrollable. So, between planning and operational, which one is controllable? Which one is uncontrollable? Operational is controllable. Planning is uncontrollable. It's not within the control of whoever in the company. Okay? Advantages also, if you do it this way, the manager you are evaluating will accept your performance measurements. You understand? Because it is fair. Okay? It is fair that he is going to be measured based on what he can control. Therefore, it becomes motivating. Okay? It is not demotivating. And what you can do, if the manager starts accepting the variances, then there is a chance to improve the standards, improve the operation, Plus, it also gets the company to make sure that they improve in their planning process. You cannot be keeping revising. So you must make sure that every time you do the planning, you consider all possible factors. So you avoid making a planning variance. Do you understand? So you need to be able to, it's done that way. So as I said earlier, it will, if you do and separate the controllable and uncontrollable, it would be a fair reflection of the actual results of performance. Okay? That would be more fair. Because remember, some of this performance evaluation is linked to salary, is linked to promotion. Okay? And therefore, it is linked to motivation. If the person doesn't feel that he is dealt with fairly, he will be totally demotivated. Okay? And we don't want that. Now, disadvantages of this planning and operational variance is, number one, how do you know realistically which one is the correct standard to follow? Okay? And it's very difficult sometimes to get the more realistic standards. Okay? Sometimes there is also, sometimes if you want to get more information of the realistic standard, you have to pay for money. What do I mean? You have to consult marketing experts. You understand? And that costs money for companies, and it's not cheap. You understand? So it can be very difficult. Sometimes, when you have planning and operational variances, it's very difficult to explain this to non-financial managers. Do you understand? Okay? So it's very difficult to explain, oh, there was a planning variance, there's an operational variance. They may think that you're trying to fool them. Do you understand? If you give them a lot of calculation, oh, this is because of this error, oh, we have to change this. So are you manipulating the numbers? Okay, so that I will not be given a bonus. You know, things like that will be the reaction of people. You understand? If you do a lot of revisions. And it is very time consuming because you have to search for information to revise the budget. And it's not, of course, and it's here in our paper, it's only 1 or 2 instances. When you go to actual work, you have many kinds of costs. You have many kinds of material. You have many kinds of product to sell. Imagine that you have to redo all of those. Okay, it will take a lot of time. Okay, all right. So, and sometimes it doesn't give you the overall picture of the total variance because, of course, you divided it into planning and operational variance. But it's very minor disadvantage, that one. Okay. Okay. Well, let's see here. Let's try this one. Okay? Let's calculate planning and operational materials variance. Okay? So, let's understand this so you will understand my second slide. What happened? There is a product AJ, and the current month is June. This product requires, okay, so a budget is 15,000 outputs. Material is 4 kilograms per unit, and it is costing $9 per kilogram. Should be dollars, huh? This is actual results. Now, it has now been agreed that the standard price of the raw material should have been $9.30, which means the standard kilogram per unit should have been 3.8. Okay, 3.8. But how much is it now? How much is it per kilogram now? Now is a standard kilogram per unit should be 3.8. Sorry, this one, because they have changed. So instead of 4 kilograms, it will be 3.8. Okay, so now let's look at planning, so the total materials, total variance. So, first, the price variance. How many was the actual purchases? 54. Remember, always actual, right? 54. What was the original price? 9. What is the how much did it actually cost? 950. So what do you call this? This is your price variance, correct? Okay. Now, the usage now, variance, you have actual at 4 kilogram, 4,000. All right. What is that? What is 14? 14 is actual units. Okay, they need 4 kilograms. All right. Actual units, 54. So you have favorable at the standard price of that. So materials variance is what? Oops, sorry, where's material variance? It got lost. Okay. So, what is the material variance here? Total material variance is the net effect. What is the net effect? Yeah, do you agree with this? Total material is the net effect of the price and the usage. Yes? Okay. That is the normal way to calculate it. Now, however, there is a planning variance. What happened? Actual units at original cost, actual unit at revised. You understand? Revised. Because there was a change in June. You remember? Okay. So, what is that? That is called your planning variance. Okay? Planning variance. Because they revised. So, it's now 9.30 as against this one. Okay? So, this one is your original kilograms. This is the revised budget. So when I'm going to get my operating variance, what will be my budget now? My budget is 494. Do you see? Okay. The revised budget is your basis to compare the actual. So you will have what? You will have an operating variance that is adverse. So you see what happened? Really, the total material variance is still 9,000, except that the operating variance is adverse. What was it originally in the previous slide? Was the operating? Oh, look. Usage variance is what? 18. Favorable. Favorable. Now, imagine that evaluation. And actually, it's not favorable. What is the actual operating variance? It is adverse. It is adverse. So it's actually different from the original because there has been a change in the plan. Understand? Okay. So what we're showing you, if you calculate the variance using the original, just one, without any planning and operational, it shows you a different picture. But when you revise it, then it gives you a totally different scenario. Okay? Right? What about the price variance? Okay? The original price, actual units at original cost, yes? And the revised cost, 14,000. 3.8 at 9.30. So actual units at revised standard. Remember, you are comparing the price. What happened? It was originally 9 and now it's supposed to be 9.30. You understand? All else remain the same. This is what you compare. Okay. So what happened? There is an adverse planning variance. So your usage variance, okay, in terms of materials, now let's see, it's 56 at 4, and now at this much. So you have what? Alright, so you have your planning usage variance, okay, of materials planning usage variance of 25. So total planning variance is this much. Okay? Total planning variance. Your price variance and your usage variance. Okay? So your total planning variance for material is favorable. Okay, favorable. All right. Operating price variance in terms of materials. Okay, price variance. What is the revised actual purchases at revised prices? Okay, so it will be now. Okay, operating price variance is adverse. Operating usage variance is what? Is adverse. Okay, so materials operating usage and operating price. So total operating variance is this much. Okay, so they put together the planning, they put together the operational variance. Okay, don't worry, we will do an exercise on this. Okay, here is my exercise. This one here is sales variance. Okay, is there a blank there? So let's skip this. I want you to go to materials. Okay, do we have time? Oh no, we don't have time. Okay, all right. What we're going to do first thing tomorrow is we will do materials planning variance example. Okay, what are we going to do? We're going to calculate traditional way to calculate variances, and then we will do planning and operational material variances. Yeah, no, that is sales. I skipped that. Okay, so there's that. All right. Oh my God. Don't worry, it's very simple. Okay, very simple. I'll show you how it's done tomorrow. Okay, you got that? Okay, so we'll see each other at 1:30. We start with planning. Okay, calculating this one. Okay, so I'll show you how it's done. Don't worry. Okay, so any questions today? Okay, takeaway today. My takeaway for you today is make sure you are well versed with sales mix, quantity variance, total mix, and so total material mix and material yield variances. You understand? Okay. All right. So we've done that. I will see you tomorrow at 1:30. We start with planning variances. Okay? Clear? Any questions? I still have answers to that multiple choice questions here. I know I gave some to the rest. So, anybody? This is the one. You have this. Okay. You have this. I gave this out before. So, whoever didn't have it earlier. One more. Okay. Who else? This is remember the review questions earlier? This is the answer to the multiple choice, etc. Maybe, maybe not. Okay. Alright, anybody else? Okay. So I'll see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow morning. Are you not going to come? Yeah, I see you tomorrow morning. I see you tomorrow morning. Yeah. We don't have that. We do it anyway. Tomorrow morning is that. Is it okay? Listen, you asked me some of these handouts. They were blank pages. Can you tell me, email me which chapters you need and I'll email it to you? Yeah? Can you just see what chapters I have? Okay? Because I remember you asked me, but I was able to post it, so I'll send it to you personally. You said give it to me tomorrow, so I can write your email address. Alright, good night. Bye. Anybody? No more? Already have? Okay, good. Let's go. Chapter 12, 11. Oh my God, I just sent it out back to LSC this evening. Yeah, there are. They go to Mr. Narin. You know LSC, where is LSC? Okay, go to LSC. Tell him the chapter 10, what I gave him earlier. Is there any? No, I don't have access. I have chapter 10, but it's all in Google Classroom. Do you have access to Google Classroom? Oh, everything is there. Everything is there. So, but if you want it printed, you just have it printed. Yeah, but if you want it, but there is everything from the beginning is there. Is there. So if you want hard copy, you have.
For the video, one video is silent.
Really? Oh, can you tell anything? Tell Mr. Narin which video it is. Yeah? That's good you're watching it. Please let them know. They will have to adjust it. Thank you.
Rồi lại là nó biểu hiện rõ bao nhiêu. Dạ đấy. Good. Bây giờ mình trái thấy hai mươi năm cái xảy ra có vừa ngay. Anh mới chơi nè. Anh mới chơi bao nhiêu tuổi? Bây giờ mày
Bye. See you. Good night. Good night. Bye. Hello. Minim, muy. Ya. Mira. No con charán.
này có nông sản được nhỉ và này có đi tận một tí này này có này này